If you're looking for the perfect place to live in the Orlando, Florida area based on your needs, then you're going to want to see how I break down the Orlando area and some of the best suburbs to live in from a map view. I've lived in the Orlando area for decades, so I'll also be sharing why I do not like some of these areas from a local's perspective. I'll be sharing the lay of the land and some insider knowledge on the best restaurants, the best downtown areas, some hangouts, and where you can find some peace and quiet if that's what you're looking for. So let's get on my laptop and take a look. Okay, so as we take a look at the state of Florida from a macro view, you're going to see the major cities. Tallahassee's up here, Florida State. Jacksonville is a big city right along I-95, which runs along the east side of the state. Gainesville is University of Florida. Daytona Beach, Orlando, Tampa, St. Pete, with Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater runs through Tampa. Lakeland, Orlando, and on up to Daytona Beach. Of course, I-95 runs all the way down here. And then other major cities, of course, Orlando in the heart of the state, in the central part of the state. Melbourne's about an hour and a half ride. West Palm, Boca, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and Homestead. And then the Florida Keys, which are a great place if you haven't ever been there. And Key West out on the end. So let's look now at some of the local beaches to the Orlando area. You're going to see St. Augustine that's about a 2-hour ride from Orlando, I suppose. Wonderful little place to hang out. Great day trip for us. We go there periodically. Have some great wineries, distilleries. I know I sound like an alcoholic, but that's not the case. They have a lot going on, especially at Christmas time. Get a carriage ride, some wonderful restaurants up there. Palm Coast is just a residential town. Ormond Beach. Then we have the beaches that matter to us. New Smyrna Beach, shark bite capital of the world. Cute little town. And skipped right over Daytona Beach. And Port Orange is just a little town near us. New Smyrna Beach, and then down, of course, down here we have Titusville, Cape Canaveral, Kennedy Space Center, about an hour over, and Mosquito Lagoon, where I spent a lot of time fishing. I'm going to be there this coming week, hopefully right in this area here, and hopefully I'll be getting on some redfish. That's my hope. So that's the basics of our area of our beach from the east. So let's go ahead and zoom into the Orlando area as a whole. And again, as we move further along, we're going to eventually zoom in more. Right now I'm giving you a macro view, so to speak, of Orlando and north. I just don't know that southern section of Orlando as well as I do east, west, and north. Now I've been down here, I've got family that lives in the Dr. Phillips area, and I've sold homes all down in here, down in St. Cloud, down in Kissimmee. So we have Dr. Phillips. The attractions are down in the southwest portion of Orlando down here. Disney, SeaWorld, Universal Studios, all of that. All that is down in that southwest section of town, down along I-4, which traffic is always an issue in that area. So let's zoom in on Orlando proper now. And let's zoom into downtown. Down here, Conway, a little bit. I've done a lot of water skiing back in the day in this area here on the Conway chain. ORMC is a big hospital in our area. ORMC and Advent, Orlando Regional and Advent are the big hospitals in our area. Central Business District is right here. Central section, downtown. This is where everything happens in downtown Orlando. Now, when I refer to Orlando, if you're calling me from out of state and you're saying, hey, Chuck, I'm thinking of moving to the Orlando area, I'm often considering much more than Orlando. I'm often considering several of these suburbs around Orlando, be it Winter Park or Apopka or Altamont, Castleberry. These are all Orlando in my mind. And what I will do often is when people come, they tell me kind of what they like, who they are. Do they want that city life? Do they want country? And so we're often just kind of getting those things to kind of learn where they want to be. So in the Orlando area, you have I'm going to zip over to the map to the other view. Orlando International Airport is down here. That's the main airport where everybody comes in. You can also come in up in Sanford. I think Allegiant flies into Sanford, much less expensive and a much nicer ride. It's right up along the Beltway here that was installed around Orlando. I don't know, in the last 20 years or so. The northern section here was just finished, the Wekiva Parkway and the 429 just recently. So we have a couple major airports. All the attractions are down in the southwest part of town. Dr. Phillips has some wonderful golf areas. Windermere, wonderful town. That's where all the stars live. Tiger Woods, Ken Griffey Jr., Shaq, all kinds of people live there. So if you want a very expensive, you want a luxury home, Windermere is a great option. There's another one on the north side of town, not as prestigious as this, not as expensive as this, but it still gives you options, okay? So as we look at the west side of Orlando, let's go ahead and move out there. Coe has really grown a lot. Winter Garden has a wonderful little downtown district. Apopka is up a little bit north of Orlando. A lot of growth in the Apopka area. Claremont has a lot of hills. Mineola. Claremont, let me speak just a minute on Claremont. Claremont has a wonderful little downtown area, but Claremont has tons and tons of hills reminiscent of, North Carolina or Tennessee. Now, no, they're not that big, but you can have a home and you can have a view. Now, they used to be all orange groves. Just 20 years ago, Claremont still was loaded with orange groves. Those are all gone now. Just about every orange grove in town is now a housing, either a development or it's just been built out. Okay, so very nice area to live. Winter Garden I spoke of, Ocoee, tons of growth in this area. So on the west side of town, then we'll move north into Lake County in a bit. Yalaha, there's absolutely nothing in Yalaha except a little bakery. I believe it's a German bakery. Wonderful little bakery, and nobody lives in Yalaha, but people drive to it. So if you want a nice little place to ride up from Orlando, maybe you got a bike, a motorcycle, or a bicycle for that matter. A lot of people in the west side of town, a lot of cycling going on. Howie in the Hills, same type thing. Country kind of living, and I'll kind of draw a line here. I'll come back to the Lake County stuff a little bit later. There's Apopka that I spoke of earlier. I'm going to come back here now, and we're going to look out on the east side of town. Azalea Park, older community. Union Park, I was married in Union Park actually, nothing there. It used to be the edge of the world. Now it's all grown up. They've got a Walmart there. Alafaya, you got University of Central Florida just north of here. I don't know if I've said it already, but you're about an hour to the beach over here. You're coming right out this way, out 50, 528, something like that. So there's some other communities in here. Wedgefield Golf Club, but Wedgefield down here is a development. Used to be, we called it Swamp. I don't know if it's actually Swamp, but it used to be Orlando Speed World. They built this years and years ago. It's just a racetrack out in the country. All kinds of crazy things happen out there. This area, the entire Orlando area, has grown up incredibly, okay? So I'm trying to think what else I need to talk about Orlando downtown. Tons of restaurants. There's a lot to do, a lot of festivals. Lake Eola. Let's talk briefly about Lake Eola right here. I wonder if I could bring my little guy. Why don't I bring him up here and drop him down? Hope I don't drop him in the water. Where'd you go? Okay, so this isn't Lake Eola itself. This is one of the little shops, one of the little restaurants right along Lake Eola. Let's kind of zoom along. Am I going the right way even? I don't even think I'm going the right. Yeah, I am. Come on. Keep going. Lake Eola. You might recognize this. This is a walkway that my wife and I go periodically. We walk along Lake Eola. There's some great restaurants, and it's a very, very popular place. The fountain, somewhere you can see the band shell over there. Can't really see it from this view, but Lake Eola is a great place. They've got a wonderful park there, and you can do quite a bit at Lake Eola if you're just looking for a place to go and walk. In the summer months, you're not going to Lake Eola too much unless you're going in the morning or the evenings, but in the spring, summer, and the fall, Lake Eola is a great attraction for Orlando. This downtown area has become pretty trendy in recent years. Highway 50, Colonial Drive, runs through Orlando from east to west, and another toll road, east-west, the 408, they call it now. And so let's head north of Orlando and take a look at some of these other cities. I should move back to this one here because it probably shows us better from a larger view. Winter Park's a very trendy area. Now I'm going to zoom in on Winter Park, and I'm going to go right back to where I was because Winter Park comes off of I-4 on Fairbanks And there's kind of two sections to Winter Park. There is the downtown area, or Park Avenue, which is very trendy, very, a lot of wonderful restaurants down there. You're going to have the Ravenous Pig. You're going to have Boca, where I just ate recently, the Briar Patch, all sorts of shops. Very nice down here, expensive to live, but if you've got the money and you're looking for a nice place to live, this is Winter Park gives you some great options. And I'm going to head over because I'm going to head through the past Lake Virginia, nice little lake, some wonderful homes on here. So if you're looking for a luxury home, Winter Park is a great place. A lot of art down here, a lot of great restaurants. Up here along 1792, you're going to have, there's a lot of business. So Winter Park proper is more less chains. You're not going to find chains down there, whereas the outskirts, other parts of Winter Park, you will find the chains. I'm going to move along through the Osceola curves, and I'm going to come to, let's see, there's 436. You see Winter Park is quite large, okay? But we're going to move along, and what I want to do is I want to point out the difference in Orlando. We're coming past, well, I came past a good bit of it here, Goldenrod. I used to live, when I moved down from Michigan years ago, we moved right here, a little apartment complex. And this side of town, tons and tons and tons of single family homes. There's some apartments along here, but single family residential homes, more reasonably priced than over on the other side on the west side of Winter Park, closer to I-4. Still very nice, close to UCF, right out 436, right out University, is how you're going to get out there. So Winter Park's a very nice neighborhood, okay? North of Winter Park, you have Maitland. Maitland is similar to Winter Park, doesn't have all the infrastructure, maybe infrastructure is not the word, doesn't have all the restaurants and all the shops, but Maitland still has kind of a ritzy feel to it, okay? And then we head north to Altamont Springs, Castleberry, Altamont, Longwood, Winter Springs. This whole area is kind of similar. Very busy, a lot of residential communities, but there's a lot of shopping, a lot of restaurants. In my eyes, this area is still Orlando, and I really don't care for this area just because, to me, the traffic is nonstop. You might have thought you left it when you left Orlando, but Orlando, folks, really covers the entire beltway. The entire beltway, which, let me go back here. You can see the beltway here. The traffic really runs all the way up through Sanford, really up to Lake Monroe. So we'll come to that more here in a bit. Let's now head over on the west side of town and north, and let's look at the Lake County side, because when I get people calling me, they're often times, I had a gentleman call the other day from Idaho, and he says, I want something a little bit country, but I don't want to be too far away from shopping. I want shopping, I want restaurants, I want to feel like I'm in the country, but I want to be still close to everything. So I suggested the Eustis, Mount Dora area, because Mount Dora has one of the best downtowns in the entire area. Mount Dora, DeLand, Claremont, maybe Winter Garden, and Sanford, in my eyes, are the best downtowns. Now, I'm sure there are others. In fact, I'm certain there are others. That's just a few of the really good ones in the area. But great downtown area, a little bit hilly, kind of hippie-ish. Eustis is another option. Eustis does not have a downtown area. It's a little bit older, not much in the way of new construction, but the east side of Eustis, say probably from here all the way up here, up through Pine Lake, almost to DeLand, there's a lot of country out here. So you can get a little bit of acreage and a nice home in this area at a reasonable price, much less than you'll find in Mount Dora, and certainly less than you'll find down in the Orlando area, where finding peace and quiet is much more difficult to find it all. So if you want peace and quiet, my recommendation, typically you got to go way south, down to Davenport, south of Kissimmee. So you got to go a long ways before you get freedom from all that traffic. Or to the west side, where it's growing like crazy, and I believe that it's going to be the same as Orlando here in just a few years. In the east side, you end up running out and just become swamp. Sorrento's a little town, really in the middle of nowhere. However, Sorrento now has a McDonald's. I can't believe it. The locals are in shock that, you know, they just got a Dunkin' Donuts. That blew them away. Now there's actually McDonald's. Sorrento, Mount Plymouth, this area, a lot of equestrian activity, as there is in Mount Dora. We're only probably an hour away from the World Equestrian Center and Ocala, which is a massive equestrian center. But there's a lot of equestrian activity here in this area. As we head out to various uses, Mount Dora, the triangle, let's talk about Leesburg. Now, Leesburg's a city that I get asked about often. I just cannot stand Leesburg, and I apologize to the Leesburg locals. It's not that I don't like the people are fantastic there. I just don't like the real estate. I don't like the geography of Leesburg. Now, they are there at the Harris chain of lakes, this here, which is a big draw for bass fishermen all around, well, I guess I'll just say the country, but a lot of bass fishing. So if you're into fishing here in our area, it's the Harris chain. Over here, we have the St. Johns River. A little bit further over here, this is St. Johns River. And then, of course, we have the beach. You can fish offshore, or the Mosquito Lagoon or the Indian River, which is saltwater. Different fish, different styles. There's people here in the Orlando area, like myself. I've done the bass fishing thing. I prefer to fish the saltwater. I prefer the variety. Maybe I'm just not that good of a bass fisherman, and I've got a good buddy who's a great bass fisherman, and he says I'm a lousy bass fisherman. So that's that. So Lake County, Sumter County is nice. We have the Villages out a little bit further west. Villages get a hard time. People give them a hard time, but Villages is a wonderful place, and I hear people to this day moving there that have never been happier in their lives than the time they spent in the Village. It's more than just homes. It's really about a lifestyle out there. So there's a lot of interaction amongst the people out there. So Lake County provides a lot of great options. Let's come back down, move north out of Longwood. Next, let's talk about Lake Mary. Let's zoom in on Lake Mary. Now, Lake Mary, great little community in Seminole County. I'm told that the Seminole County schools are fantastic. I do not have children in the Seminole County schools, but I hear often that they're fantastic. Lake Mary in Heathrow, a lot of luxury living, very nice homes. Lake Mary was primarily built out, I'm going to say, in the 80s, okay? Heathrow sits next to it, luxury homes, this whole area. This side of I-4 is still Sanford up here, but it is very, very nice homes, this entire area. I could zoom in and address some of it, but there's some golf communities over here. If you're looking for a luxury home, this is one area that I would have you look along the Markham Woods corridor over there. Next, after Lake Mary, now there's not much to do in Lake Mary per se. A lot of great job opportunities, a lot of tech jobs, a lot of administrative jobs, all sorts of, there's numerous headquarters in Lake Mary. Of course, Orlando has a lot of that, but sometimes they want to be out, and there's a lot of that in Lake Mary. So next, let's talk about Sanford. Downtown district is up here right on the water. Some great restaurants here in Sanford. There's just a lot of restaurants. I'm not even going to go into all of them. Hollerbox, great place right downtown. And this whole area right here along 1792, the Sanford Riverwalk is fantastic, and a lot of art going on down there. If you're looking for a place to hang out, you want to listen to some live music. I mentioned those other downtown districts, but it seems like there's always live music in Sanford. There's also a lot of breweries. I don't know if there's a connection between those two, but it does seem like there's a lot of them. So whether you're looking for an upscale home in Windermere or Lake Mary, or whether you're looking for country like in Lake Mary, like out in Lake County, like I mentioned, Eustis, Mount Dora, or any of those places, give us a shout, because what we're going to do is we're going to take what you tell us and we're going to find the right home for you and for your needs. Because if you just say, I want to move to Orlando, well, look, I can certainly, myself or someone on my team can certainly find you a home right in Orlando. But then you're going to move in and you're going to say, I hate this. And then I'll be saying, why didn't you tell me? Tell me what you're looking for. Because when we have that conversation, often it's on a Zoom call, sometimes our initial call, but you know, I'm digging to find out what it is that you're looking for. So we're finish up on Sanford here. We talk about Sanford International Airport, great airport, and then as we head north out of Sanford, we're gonna cross I-4. Whoops, where am I going here? Where am I going? We're gonna come up and we're gonna cross I-4 into Volusia County. This is Lake Monroe. Now, I mentioned that traffic is bad in Orlando. It tends to end in this stretch of road right here. Sometimes traffic will be backed up to all the way up to Deltona and DeBary here, sometimes even up a little further. But generally speaking, when you leave Seminole County, traffic becomes less of an issue. That's important to note because traffic is a real thing in the Orlando area, and it's one reason that I personally hate Orlando. Orlando has a lot of benefits to it, but I cannot stand the traffic. Let's take a minute now and talk about DeBary, a tiny little town, quiet little town, right just north of, again, what I call Orlando, just north of Sanford, on the edges of the St. Johns River. And let's just dig in a little bit here. You got a couple of mobile home parks right on the St. Johns River. Both of them have access, super low HOAs. So if you have a low budget and you're okay with a manufactured home, I might suggest Traders Cove or Leisure World. I believe now it's Medalia on the river. They got a better name. If you're looking for new construction, Rivington, wonderful community right here. They're going to have access to Alexander Island as soon as the city of DeBary gets that finished up. DeBary is also building a new downtown district because right now, well, they just don't have a downtown district. Also in DeBary, Riviera Bella, a Mediterranean community on the river, gated, fantastic little community. I have a video on that. And then St. Johns River Estates, half acre, 1 acre estate type homes. So let's look at DeBary here, and you're going to see a couple type of homes. You're going to see a lot of older 60s homes, tons and tons, 60s or 70s maybe, some of them up into the 80s, but older block homes in this area of town here and across 1792 over here in this area. You're also going to see DeBary Plantation, which is a golf community. Nicer homes. Some areas of DeBary Plantation are gated. And then you also have Glen Abbey, so which also has a golf course. So plenty of golf in this area. There's two courses here, and then there's another one up in DeLand, which we'll be coming to shortly. DeLand, there's a couple of reasons that people like DeLand, so stick around for that. Next, we're going to leave DeBary and we're going to move over to the east and talk about Deltona for a minute. Now, everybody asks me, well, I shouldn't say everybody, I get a lot of calls from people asking me about Deltona. Well, what does Deltona have to offer, Chuck? Well, not much. Great bang for your buck on a residential home. That's primarily what Deltona does. Do they have some condos? I believe they have two condo options, which one of them is fantastic. I have a video on that as well. But primarily Deltona, single family residential homes with no HOAs. Now, there are a few of them. Crystal Lake Estates. There's a couple HOA communities in Deltona, but by and large, it's a place with great bang for your buck on quarter-acre lots, except out on the east side of town. Out in this area out here, there is some acreage. Primarily, people leave the Orlando area and come to Deltona for housing. Orange City is where the people in this entire area up for shopping, chain restaurants, that is, things like that. You know, there's Walmart, there's all sorts of things in this area because DeBary, although DeBary has some great restaurants, they're not a commercial area per se. Deltona doesn't do anything much. I mean, a few grocery stores, few restaurants, very little shopping. They all come to Orange City in our area. Is there housing in Orange City? Of course there is, plenty of housing. And some great communities. I've helped a lot of people buy homes and sell homes here in this area. Next, let's take a look at the west side here, just north of Deltona, and let's talk about Lake Helen and Cassadaga. They're kind of sister communities. Cassadaga is like a spiritist thing. They read palms and all that stuff. I don't necessarily understand all that, but it's a big deal for those that are interested in that. Lake Helen is what I call Mayberry. Not much to do in Lake Mary, although they do have some equestrian activities. Nice little downtown area that is very quiet. So if you want to get away from the hustle and bustle of Orlando, Lake Helen is kind of a secret gem that people just don't know about. Right off of I-4, as you see here, close to the beaches, right, 35 minutes, you're probably 35 minutes from the beaches. And great little town. Butler's Express at Christmas time, something we go to every single year with our children for many years. Now we take our grandchildren. It's a little train where they ride around, look at Christmas lights, sing Christmas carols. May sound kind of hokey, maybe it is, but we like it. Next, let's talk about DeLand. Now, DeLand is the big brother of this area, of the West Volusia area. And Victoria Park is the largest community in DeLand. We have, there's 5 sections of Victoria Park. I'm not going to go into all of them now. I have other videos on them. And Victoria Park's HOA community with a golf course, nice golf course in the hills, right off of I-4, and a ton of homes built out in the early 2000s. Several other great communities over off McGregor Road here. You'll find a little bit of acreage, a lot of 1-acre parcels, and primarily you're going to find land on the west side of town, a little bit on the east side. There's some up north when it becomes more rural. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the west side of town, McGregor Road, very, very nice 1-acre parcels. Longleaf Plantation is right here, along 1792 and Orange Camp Road. But 1792 is the main thoroughfare through the center of DeLand, and we're going to come to downtown DeLand in just a minute. But Longleaf Plantation, I just lost myself. Where am I at? Okay, Longleaf Plantation. I've spent a long time talking about this, but it's half-acre parcels, wonderful little town, or wonderful little community, ranch homes, older homes. Many have been remodeled. Kind of hilly in there too. So it's a great little community, a little hidden gem in the center section of DeLand. As we head north, you're going to see a lot of new construction out on the west side of town. Okay, several new construction options up through here along MLK Boulevard here. Several of them. There's a new 55 plus community up here that we recently did a video on as well. So if you're looking for a 55 plus community, we got a couple options here in DeLand, not an abundance of them, but we got a couple really good options, okay? Earl Brown Park is a little park in DeLand where there's a lot of festivals going on. They got basketball courts there. A lot of great stuff happens there. And then let's head up to downtown. As we head to downtown, primarily Highway 44, 1792, coming through it. Some great restaurants in DeLand. Fornabello is one of my personal favorites. Last night I ate at Positano. Bake Chop. Half Wall is a great place to go and get a craft beer. In DeLand, in the downtown area, and there's some others down in this area as well, there's some historic homes. Along Minnesota Avenue, there's a good bit of it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful historic homes. But as I mentioned, it's not just in the downtown area. We've also got some other homes out on the west side of DeLand, because DeLand, what you may not know, becomes Lake County out here. So through all of DeLand is primarily Volusia County, but out here it becomes Lake County for a while out here till, well, let's say Pine Lakes. Somewhere out there in Pine Lakes is where that line is, where it becomes Eustis, which we spoke about a minute ago. Other communities here, Daytona Park Estates out on the west side of town. Downtown DeLand also has Stetson University. Let me see if I can find us here. Stetson University, yes, right here in front of me. Stetson University, Pennsylvania, very nice homes along this area. I recently found a community that I've never seen in my life. I've been in this area since, well, I've been here in the DeLand area since 1998. And I found a little community, a little street that I'd never been on. So it was pretty wild, pretty enlightening, and a nice area too. So let's head north out of downtown, because I don't think I need to spend too much time on downtown. It's one of the best in the area, as I mentioned before. A lot of restaurants, some great shopping. There's even a little escape room down there. But for me, I'm going to the restaurants. There is, along Indiana, is the Athens Theater, which is a fantastic little theater, I guess. So a lot of arts, Stetson University. And then as we head north of DeLand, well, on the north side of DeLand, I should speak of the airport, okay, DeLand Municipal Airport. DeLand is a skydiving mecca. People come from all over the world. I don't really understand why, because DeLand is a wonderful town, but it's not like it's Hawaii or something beautiful like that. But we will be driving around all the time in DeLand, or maybe just out and about, and we'll see people jumping out of an airplane all over the place. It's really neat. A great feature that we have in this area. We also, you know, speaking of looking in the skies, we're also seeing the Kennedy's activity from Kennedy Space Center. These rockets being shot up. It used to be the shuttle, now it's rockets. But we're all the time seeing, and we're just looking over to the east, southeast, and we're seeing it. Next, let's leave DeLand and let's talk for a minute about De Leon Springs. So De Leon Springs has springs in them, as they also do in Orange City. I did not speak that, Blue Spring Park. But De Leon Springs State Park and Blue Springs State Park, 72-degree water, crystal clear. It will freeze you in the summer, but in the winter it feels great when it's cool outside. People flock to that place. It's getting really busy these days. If you want to get into De Leon Springs nowadays, you need to get there 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and get in the line, because if you show up at 10, 11 o'clock, you're probably not getting in. They have a great little place at De Leon Springs State Park to make pancakes. You cook them yourself. Great little thing. I've taken people when they call me and they come to the area. Often we're meeting in De Leon Springs and having pancakes just because I think it's a great little place. De Leon Springs is rural property, okay? As we leave DeLand, I want to just point out how green this all is up here. There is, you know, all around this whole area, the Ocala National Forest, and a lot of wilderness. So it's very quiet, not much north of us until you get all the way up to Palatka. So primarily here in the DeLand area, people are going down to Orlando or over to the beaches. You know, they're going to the beaches for obvious reasons, the beaches. And yeah, so they're heading over there or down to Orlando. Although we have primarily everything we need, but if I'm going to see a Magic game or I'm going to see a concert, those type things are happening down in Orlando. Now, I have not covered every suburb in the Orlando area. That's not my intent here. My intent here is to give you a layout, an overview of this area, because when people are calling me asking me about the area, they're often asking me these very questions. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.